1960s weren't just Motown and Stax. There were hidden gems shaking the airwaves. The Mad Lads were crooning with sweet Memphis harmonies, and the Esquires laid down grooves as sharp as their suits. These are 12 underrated 60s R&B and soul bands you probably have forgotten. Number 12, the Esquires. Hailing from Milwaukee, the Esquires burst onto the scene in 1967 with their infectious single, Get On Up. Signed to Bunky Records, they blended tight harmonies with a relentless, danceable beat that embodied the late 60s soul party spirit. What many forget is that the band actually rehearsed in basements and street corners for years before breaking through. And while Get On Up became a top 20 hit, their follow-ups never quite caught mainstream fire. Still, in black communities across the Midwest, their sound was electric, soul that wasn't polished for pop charts, but raw enough to feel like it belonged to you. Close your eyes and you can almost picture the teens at a summer block party, twisting and shouting under string lights. Their legacy may be overshadowed by Motown giants, but the Esquires remain a hidden gem in the 60s soul treasure chest. Number 11, the Precisions. Detroit's The Precisions might not have hit Smokey Robinson levels of fame, but in 1967 they gifted us with If This Is Love, I'd Rather Be Lonely, released on Drew Records. The song showcased tender lead vocals surrounded by harmonies sharp enough to cut glass. Here's the twist. Although they recorded multiple singles, this track became a Northern soul classic in the UK years later. Imagine, American kids may have missed them, but in dimly lit dance clubs in Manchester, the Precisions were royalty. When you listen, it feels like heartbreak wrapped in velvet, soul that aches but still glides. These are the kinds of records collectors hunt down, spinning them like sacred relics. They may have been one-hit wonders in the States, but their transatlantic legacy ensures their voices will never be fully silenced. Number 10, the Falcons. Before the Temptations or the Spinners took over, the Falcons were trailblazing. Formed in Detroit in the late 50s, they were one of the first integrated R&B groups, bold at a time when segregation was still the rule. Here's the kicker. The Falcons launched careers. Members included Wilson Pickett and Eddie Floyd, both of whom went on to become legends. Their breakout, You're So Fine, 1959.
My last drop. You're so fine.
And the gospel-soaked I Found a Love, 1962, hinted at the soul explosion to come. Listening now, you hear the DNA of soul's future. The shouts, the harmonies, the grit. It was all there. They might not be remembered as household names, but without the Falcons, much of the 60s soul family tree wouldn't exist. Number 9, the Vibrations. Coming straight out of Los Angeles, the Vibrations were chameleons of R&B. Originally recording doo-wop under the name the Jayhawks, they evolved into a powerhouse vocal group with hits like My Girl Sloopy in 1964. Here's the wild part. My Girl Sloopy was later reworked into Hang On Sloopy, a rock staple. But the soul roots belonged to the Vibrations. They recorded for Checker Records, delivering harmonies that could both soothe and ignite. When you spin their records today, you hear that West Coast flair, sunlight mixed with rhythm. They weren't Motown polished, but they had a swagger that made them unforgettable to those who saw them live. The Vibrations proved that soul wasn't just a Detroit or Memphis thing. It was nationwide. Number 8, the Mad Lads. Straight from Memphis and signed to Stax's Volt imprint, the Mad Lads were unique. While many soul groups leaned toward grittiness, they delivered silky, almost doo-wop inspired harmonies. Tracks like Don't Have to Shop Around, 1965, showcased sweet vocals layered over classic Stax instrumentation.
Anymore.
What's special is how they stood out in the Stax roster. While Otis Redding and Sam and Dave shouted from the mountaintops, the Mad Lads whispered right to your heart. Imagine a couple slow dancing in a dim-lit club. This was the soundtrack. Though never massive chart toppers, their style filled a niche, and their records are still cherished by collectors and romantics alike. They're proof that soul had as many shades as emotions. Number 7, the Royalettes. Baltimore's pride, the Royalettes, were a female soul group blending sophistication with street corner sincerity. Signed to MGM Records, they scored with It's Gonna Take a Miracle in 1965, a lushly orchestrated ballad that predated the Philly soul sound by years.
It's gonna take a miracle. Yes, it's gonna take.
Here's the twist. The song would later become a huge hit in the 70s for Denise Williams, but those sweeping strings and aching harmonies, the Royalettes did it first. Listening now, you hear both heartbreak and hope, the magic of teenage dreams and adult longing colliding in song. They never achieved long-lasting fame, but they carved out a lane that proved soul could be cinematic. Number 6, the Intruders. Before Philadelphia soul became a movement, the Intruders were laying the groundwork. With Gamble and Huff guiding them, they released We'll Be United in 1966 and Together shortly after.
We're gonna be united.
Their harmonies were smooth, their lyrics everyday poetry. Imagine Philly street corners in the mid-60s. Young men practicing harmonies under flickering streetlights. That's the Intruders. They would later blossom in the 70s with Gamble and Huff's Philadelphia International Records, but their 60s beginnings often get overlooked. Their legacy? They bridged the gap between doo-wop traditions and the polished Philly soul era. Every note feels like family, like community, like love in motion. If these forgotten groups are stirring up memories, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps us keep the soul alive. And don't go anywhere. We've still got 6 more underrated bands to rediscover, including a number 1 pick that'll leave you stunned. Number 5, the Autographs. This Chicago-based group may not ring immediate bells, but their 1967 single, I Can Do It, on VJ Records lit up the Northern Soul scene years later.
I can do it.
Their blend of gospel-shouted leads and tight backing vocals captured the energy of Chicago's street soul. They never got a full album, never got the national push, but that scarcity makes their few records even more cherished. Imagine crate diggers in dusty record shops lighting up when they stumble upon their singles. That's the Autographs' legacy. Rare, raw, and absolutely unforgettable once heard. Number 4, the Montclairs. From East Street Louie, the Montclairs were led by the soaring voice of Phil Perry. Their 1969 single, Begging Is Hard to Do, might not have charted high, but it's a masterclass in pleading soul balladry. Perry's falsetto was spine-tingling, and years later he'd go on to a successful solo career. But those early Montclairs cuts are the kind of songs that sneak up on you, tender, aching, yet powerful. When you hear them now, it's like opening a time capsule of pure emotion, proof that greatness doesn't always equal chart numbers. Number 3, the Masqueraders. Originally from Dallas, the Masqueraders hustled through the 60s, cutting singles for labels like La Beat and Bell. Their harmonies were dramatic, their delivery passionate. A highlight is their 1968 single, I'm Just an Average Guy. The irony, their sound was anything but average. With fleeting leads and heavenly harmonies, they captured that sweet spot between doo-wop and deep soul. Though mainstream success eluded them, they earned cult status among deep soul fans. Imagine late-night radio DJs slipping their records into the mix, sending heartbreak across the airwaves. That's the Masqueraders' gift. Number 2, the Diplomats. Washington, D.C.'s Diplomats, sometimes called the Dips, offered sweet soul with a polished touch. Their 1966 track, There's Always Something There to Remind Me, gave them regional acclaim.
I will never be free. You'll always be up.
And later members went on to collaborate with Curtis Mayfield. The Diplomats were smooth operators, less grit, more glide. You can almost see couples dressed sharp, dancing slow and close to their records. Their influence bled into the next decade, proving that DC wasn't just about go-go, it had deep soul roots too. Number 1, the Five Stairsteps. Chicago's Five Stairsteps, sometimes called the first family of soul, best remembered for their 1970 hit OOH Child. Their 60s catalog is criminally underrated. Signed to Windy C Records, their early singles like You Waited Too Long, 1966, showed remarkable maturity. Guided by Curtis Mayfield, they blended youthful innocence with sophisticated harmonies.
You would return.
They were family, literally siblings, stepping onto stages together, harmonizing like they'd been born for it. Their influence later shaped the Jackson 5, proving just how ahead of their time they were. The Stairsteps remind us that even when overlooked, true soul finds a way to shine. From Milwaukee block parties to East St. Louis ballads, these underrated groups remind us that soul wasn't just in the charts, it was in the streets, the churches, the corners, and the communities. Thanks for joining us on this soul stroll. If you loved rediscovering these forgotten voices, subscribe to keep the groove alive and never miss the next countdown. Up next, the unforgettable soul hits of 1966. Click on the screen and let's keep the rhythm rolling.